Kareem.
You have the link up on Facebook, right, or something?
No, we're not going live on Facebook, but it's being recorded.
Anyway,
Okay.
so let's kick it. Hi, everybody. I'm Jessica with BCID.
I'm Jose Hernandez with United Spinal Association. And
before we get started, we're going to go through some quick housekeeping rules that I'm sure everybody's already familiar with. We're on the panel right now. You can put questions into the chat box or into the Q&A. And as soon as our ASL interpreter arrives, we will go ahead and add her as a panelist, so you will be able to see her.
We're here to talk about the important topic of, gun violence, especially now, being that this summer has been extremely, active when it comes to guns. We have Namel, Norris, and Kareem Nelson. Namel is from Four Wheel City. He is a gun activist, has spoken at many schools, and has his nonprofit organization called Four Wheel City. And Kareem Nelson has also done a lot of talking at schools to prevent gun violence, and he runs Wheelchairs Against Guns. So, Namel, tell me about yourself, your injury, and tell me about your organization.
Well, those who don't know, I'm Namel, Tapwaterz, Norris. Pretty much been injured for like 20 years through the gun violence, senseless gun violence. When I was 17, my cousin was playing with a gun that we were like sharing with each other throughout our crew, and it went off and it struck me in my neck, and so it left me paralyzed. So it happened to me as a young kid. I had to adapt from that. Coming up in the environment I was coming up in the Bronx, 169th Street, 170th and 3rd, Washington. Shout out to my peoples out there. But just coming up in that environment and having to adapt to like a lot of the violence and negative things going on there. And I met Rick, who's who those who don't know is my partner through music. We do music together to inspire, educate, advocate, and entertain. That's what the four symbolize in our organization, our group, Four Wheel City. And what we've been trying to do for the past few years is just try to use our stories, because what happened to me was like really senseless gun violence, and also what happened to Rick was senseless through a straight bullet. So our whole thing is like sharing those stories of what happened to us as our personal testimonies, and then on the flip side, giving the other side like of inspiration and hope, and keep going and persevering. But dealing with the gun violence aspect of it, we started going back to schools and speaking to kids and letting them know, to stay in school, and also what's the consequences of when you have a gun. And because a lot of times, I remember when I was young and I was like infatuated with guns, I didn't never really have any one to come tell me that this gun that I'm so infatuated with might end up putting me in a wheelchair. Like, nobody never told me that, so I wanted to be one of those voices for the young generation to let them know that if it happened to me, it can happen to you, so that's the gun violence aspect and that we do with the message, and we do it through song and music. And like some of the videos we have out now, the new ones, Stupid with the Gun, but we get to show it today. And Welcome to Reality is like our primary messages through our music that we put out right now. And we just hoping that our story like influences the next generation to like have like plant a seed to let them know that there's consequences to your actions, and to think before you pick up a gun and you go do something negative, because you might be doing it out of anger, and you might think that you're going to shoot this person that you might be upset with, but you might hit Rick and put him in a wheelchair for the rest of his life. Or that gun that you think you're so tough with might be the same gun, the same bullet that might end up shooting you, like what happened to me. And it might be your friend. People need to hear these stories, and you see what else going on the news. So it's a lot that goes into it. and so that's what we're doing.
So Kareem, introduce yourself and tell our audience a little bit about yourself and your organization.
My
And
name is Kareem.
We go back.
Yeah, baby, yeah, we go back. You one of the first friends I made being paralyzed and embarking on this journey of paraplegic. I'm proud of you, brother. I see you come a long way, man. I see you come a long way.
Definitely. You've
You know,
come a
man.
long way too, man.
Yeah. Well, Wheelchairs Against Guns, our mission is to protect children from the dangers of bullying, gangs, and gun violence. How I do that is I started an organization and I asked myself, what was I lacking? Why was I this way? And I looked at it from a national standpoint. Like, New York is New York, but New York is the same as Chicago, LA, Detroit, Michigan. All inner cities are the same. And I thought that all of us was lacking the same thing if we was all doing the same actions. So I did some study and I came up with what I was lacking as a child, which was conflict resolution strategies, critical thinking techniques, and how to build and maintain a positive self-esteem. So I took and I put that into a curriculum, and I presented it to the DOE, and the DOE likes it, and I've been rocking with the DOE ever since. But my story is, I'm stupid. I didn't have to run the streets. Come from a well-to-do family. I was pretty much I suffer from low self-esteem, and in my older age, I can say that without frowning upon myself. Yeah, at the time when I was coming up, crack cocaine was the thing to do. I chose not to do it. I chose to sell it. So I got into that at a very young age, 12 years old, and I've been in the streets all my life since. 1995, I got shot in Baltimore. I was out there selling drugs, wasn't supposed to. I got into an altercation with a guy. I thought I was the toughest in the world. I didn't want him selling his drugs. So ultimately, not having any conflict resolution strategies, I've resorted to violence, and I got the low end of the stick. I became paralyzed in 1995, Father's Day. I didn't learn my lesson from then. I still was in the streets. In 2002, I was convicted to federal prison for the conspiracy to distribute crack cocaine. I came up in 2008. I almost lost my life against in the streets. And then that's when I formed Wheelchairs Against Guns. And ever since then, this has been my job, my passion, my life, trying to keep these kids from making the same mistakes I made. That's pretty much where
I'm going to put up a slide, and powerful. I'm going to put up a slide, and it's going to break down the numbers of individuals who become paralyzed. Oh, it's this one. Can everyone see that? So if you look at, the total numbers of individuals injured, the African Americans make up 7,783. But of that, 42% are due to gun violence. What do you attribute that to? I'm gonna stop sharing. And this goes to both of you, Namel and Kareem. Why is that? Why the majority of, African Americans, Latinos are injured through, violent acts?
I think personally, I think it's just because it has a lot to do with the circumstances and conditions that we come up in. Being in like impoverished neighborhoods, being on top of one another, being like in competition with one another, being and then having all these outside influences that tell you it's okay to be that way, and kind of fuel your ego, and like make you want to be a tough guy. Like, I'm just speaking from like the perspective of me growing up as a kid, and what made me want to have a gun and want to shoot it, or what got me shot by it, I think. And I think a lot has to do with, like, even what Kareem was talking about, like he came from a well-to-do family. He still wanted to go out in the streets. I think for a lot of us, coming up in these environments, I think it makes us want to be what we see. And a lot of what we see is like the gangster profile on top of not having anything. So the first thing we do when we don't have anything, how are we going to get it? You know, nobody want to wait and take the long road. So it's like we take the short road. That might be robbing somebody. That might be selling drugs. It might be anything that you might think you need a gun for that leads to conflicts. And then those conflicts leads to guns being shot. And I think it trickles down from those it's different. It trickles down from those layers that leads down to like the wheelchairs and being injured, you know? And I think that's why a lot of us end up in wheelchairs from our community, is because we don't know any better. And what happens is we resort to violence to solve problems. And a lot of that could be changed with, I think, a lot of conditions improving, and then the mentality of sometimes it's not always about using a gun. And if we could like figure that part out and figure that strategy out to not resort to the violence, because we can't always legislate anger out of our personality as a human being. You can't say like somebody can't get mad at something and not want to respond to something, but the key to that is how do we respond, you know? So, and I think a lot of that, the circumstances that put us in those environments and put us in that mentality to want to cause harm is like, once that eliminated, then we could kind of deal with just the circumstance, the structural and systematic way that we put in the situation to have to respond that way. And then once we could deal with that, then we can actually deal with, you know, I don't need a gun, because you know why I don't need a gun? Because I'm about to throw my life away because I got like a house, or I got things that I'm doing that's positive that I don't want to lose with this guy on the corner because he just stepped on my foot today. You know, a lot of times we feel like we don't got nothing to lose. And actually, if we do this negative thing, we got a lot to gain. So that's our ego, because we don't have much. And once we could work through all that, I know Kareem, he could add to that, because he's coming from that whole conflict resolution standpoint that's after that point, I think. So he could add to that, I think. Can't hear you, Jose.
I'm sorry. I actually come from, the same neighborhoods you come from, Namel. I grew up on Crotona and 183rd, where, drugs, crack cocaine, marijuana was prevalent. And, that's what I grew up in. I grew up with guns and drugs. Drug dealers took over buildings, and didn't allow the residents to come in unless they got permission from the drug dealers. And,
Wow.
and back in the days, guns and drugs were power. So, Kareem, you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't believe there's any bad kids, right? I just believe, like Nathan said, like Namel said, we're just all in bad, like we're in poverty. And with poverty comes crime, violence, and everything else. So my thing is this, we understand what we up against with poverty, but what are the condition of our youth self-esteem? Like, I play both sides of the fence. I try to be the devil's advocate, and I ask myself, why is one way and one is not the other way? So we grew up in this culture where a sucker is the worst thing in the world to be. I grew up every day throwing my life to them, just saying the hell with my life. Not knowing it consciously, but subconsciously, I'm saying the hell with my life. If I could just pick a gun up, and every day I come out of my house, I run the risk of going to jail or getting murdered, and it's normal. It's like normal. It's nothing. It doesn't bother me to hear my friends get murdered. It's a normal thing, because it's like a war where we come from. So my thing is, we have to uplift the self-esteem of our children. We have to let them know that, and lead by example, that, this culture that y'all are abiding by, you don't have to abide by, because they really strongly feel like they're obligated to live this way. And like Namel said, and that comes from the images, and like what perpetuates the violence in our cities. Like, ask yourself, what perpetuated it? From the time an inner city child gets up to the time he goes to bed, there's nothing trajected to him that's positive. From the music to the TV to his friends to his conversation with his friends to everything, there's nothing positive. and to be positive, you're deemed a sucker. So my organization is what we do is we lead by example. We show them that, you know, I live by these principles. Before I do anything dealing with violence, I resort all avenues. You know, I just don't jump out there and say the hell with my life and go get a gun and shoot somebody, because it's not always called for. And then you ask the kids today, like, what are you beefing about? They don't know. Their main thing is, I don't know, man. Just because, you know, it's generational. So we really have to put their self-esteem in a different place to where they feel wanted, where they feel loved, where they feel like their lives are worth something, you know, where they feel like they can be productive citizens. Because this culture that they growing up in is null and void to all what I just said. They don't believe that they could be productive citizens. They only believe there's two way out to the hood is between rapping and basketball. They don't know that you could be an engineer. They don't know that the women come with anything the money comes with. They think that they only thing that they can be successful in is rapping or selling drugs to get a business or whatever the case is. You know, that's their means of success because they don't know no better. And it takes people to come out who live that life to show them that there's a better way. It's definitely a better way.
I'm going to take a pause a second, and Bruno, he has a great question. He says, who is responsible for the misuse of firearms? The people is responsible for handling the firearms. When it comes to race, minorities live immersed in a culture of violence, fed by video games and music, which idealize violence. So who's responsible for that, you know, for the gun use?
Well, I'll say this, the responsibility for the guns is always it's always a choice. That's where critical thinking comes in. If you don't have no critical thinking, you'll pick up a gun at the fast, if anything goes wrong in your life, you know? There's no critical thinking. And I think that's what's driving the murder rate. I think that's what's keeping our guns in our community, because they're not thinking. All they're thinking about is protection. I'm gonna do wrong with this. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna get away. You know, it's the mindset. I think it's the mindset that's killing them, that's forcing them to the gun. You know, I think it's the mind, and the guns. I mean, this is America. This is built. We was built on violence. The guns are always going to be here. You know.
Namel?
I mean, it's so funny because as soon as you said that and Kareem started talking, a line that just came to my mind that I probably wrote. I had to be about maybe 14 years old when I wrote this, and I was like, you know, I used to write. I mean, I still do write very aggressive rhymes, but I try to bring them in the message. And but this is like a rhyme I wrote because I feel like it summarizes
both of their programs are
what we're saying. And it's like it said guns don't kill people, lunatics like we do, seduced by evil since I was mother effing two. And that's a rhyme I wrote. And back then I used to write rhymes like most of us writing rhymes back then because we wanted to say the hardest, toughest thing. And to me, I wasn't saying that to make a statement like it was true. I was saying that to be hard and aggressive. But now I'm listening to it and I'm like, I was young, but I understood exactly what was happening as a young boy, but I was in it, right? So I said, guns don't kill people, lunatics like we do. But I'm calling me and my friends lunatics. And I'm saying we kill people. And I'm not saying that because we was really doing it at the time, but I wanted to, that's the message that I wanted people to know about me and my friends, that we lunatics. It ain't the gun.
That's the culture.
But I'm like, exactly. I'm like, what made me say that at such a young age? And I said seduced by evil since I was mother effing two. And why did I want to put that message out, talk about myself and my friends? Because that's what we feed off each other when we in these environments. It's from the music, it's from movies, it's from a lot of different things. But we feed off these things off each other. We bounce these ideas off each other. But then what happens is art starts to imitate life, and life imitates art. So what happens is we start to live these things out because it's all we know. And like Kareem said, we don't get another way to strategize. We don't get a way to not get in the problem in the first place with the help from the government or the system, the way the system is structured, to help us avoid the problem. Then when we get in the problem, all our solutions are worse than that. So it's like So it's like a lot of times we have to we have to start from the bottom up and like kind of break down what we know and try to educate and it's I think it's coming around and happening, but I think it's a process because this is part of the American way as well. You know, guns and violence. You know, the country was born through violence. So it's like a lot of it is actually how we deal with conflict as a whole, as a nation, as a community, as a race. We gotta all appreciate life more. Like Black Lives Matter, and a lot of people say all lives matter, but that's true. But when we talk about Black Lives Matter, it's because what we're talking about right here is like
Justice
I want to say like it has to be like there's layers to it, and every layer has to count. And if we're not taking life into account for what I'm saying, like as a young kid, to have to deal with those environments and these circumstances and have to come out of them with a clear mind and a clear heart, it's not going to happen. It's hard. It's like you ask the son, you asking for the impossible to happen. So we gotta help kids have a fresh start, you know, and have a clear path where they can actually see that promised land, because it's hard to see it.
Yeah, that's why.
If you can't see it, how can you believe it?
Yeah, that's a fact. That's why we start in schools, because that's where the kids are most impressionable. You know, they come into where they want to do in schools. You know what I mean? So it's good to catch them there, because then you could, you know, they're teetering on what they want to do. And then, like you said, like right now, I wear that low self-esteem like a badge of honor, because if a person could see me, admit to my flaws, and to say that, yo, I had a low self-esteem, I was a follower, I did this and I did that because this is what was going on at the time. You know, they could look at that and be like, hold on, I'm considered to be a real man. You know, I do real man things, you know, and so they could see that, and then they be like, hold on. And our organization, we're not the ones that go into school and tell them, like, if you're doing wrong and you feeding your family, I have no way to tell you, to tell you that stop selling crack if that's feeding your family, and I can't provide you a means to help you. You know, so we're big on that. Like, I live by these principles every day. I use my critical thinking every day. I use my conflict resolution strategies every day. I have to remind myself that I suffer from low self-esteem. You know, and these are constant things in my life, and these are the things that help me avoid violence. Because don't get it wrong, I'm not too far removed from the street myself, and there's still times where things don't go my way, and I might want to get violent, but my psyche and being a man of integrity and accountability, I can't do it. I just can't do it. You know what I mean? I can't do it. I have my family to worry about. I have a newborn son who's autistic to worry about. I have a lot on my plate, you know, and I want these kids to see that, you know, I'm coming from where I came from, man, and I made it. You know, I stumbled, I tripped, I fell, I did everything wrong, and I still made it. But a lot of people ain't lucky as me and Namel is. You know, a lot of people hit that grave. You know, a lot of people go to jail forever. You know, so the thing is, like, we really have to change their esteem, because as long as they listening to this music, and as long as, you know, they don't have any positive influence in their life, this cycle is going to continue and continue and continue. I'm 46. I'm 3 generations behind this generation. And the same thing that was going on in my generation is happening today.
Since you, okay, Jessica. No, you was gonna say something. Okay.
No, actually, go ahead.
Well, since you spoke about the Black Lives Matters movement, ask both of you, what does that mean to you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I could be bluntly honest, you know, because I don't like to sugarcoat nothing. I mean, it's rubbing me the wrong way, you know, because, I mean, through this Black Lives Matter, yeah, our lives matter, but we're not on the stage. You understand what I'm saying? We're not on the stage. We're not made to be exploited. I mean, real people are dying. Real tears are being shed, right? It's not just on a national standpoint for the TVs and the cameras. You know, it seems like that's the only time that Black Lives Matter to our people is when it's time to get on television. And meanwhile, in our inner cities, that the battle I'm fighting, there's nobody concerned about Teresa's son, Jojo, who just got murdered 2 days ago on the street by the hands of another black man. You know what I mean? That's not talked about in the realms of Black Lives Matter. So we're not going to talk about all Black lives. You know, not just the publicly ones that's murdered, because you know that I got heart for, I feel for them too, but it can't be separated. You know, that's what the powers that be want to do. They want to cause a divide. You know, they want to cause a divide where if a person get murdered in the street and he was of the street, his life don't matter. Nah, that can't be. If Black Lives Matter, that's what it has to be. George Floyd's life has to be just as important as JoJo's life. You know, we can't separate the two. We can't cause division with the two. We have to stay on a together base. Like they now, you know, I don't have a problem against nobody, but when you start dividing and you start saying, you know, green lives matter, blue lives matter, orange lives matter, you know, it starts a division. And then with division, you see what happens with gangs. One person feels they deserve this, another group feels they deserve this, and in hindsight, we're all of one. You know, so I'm kind of over the Black Lives Matter thing, because it's not really, it's Black lives that make the news lives matter. That, to me, you know what I mean? If you don't make the news, your life don't matter. Like this week, a 6-year-old kid was shot in the leg. Where's the protesters? Where's the marches? Where's the, you know, all the advocates? You know, Shorty doesn't. It's no money right there for them to look at. So Shorty just gets overlooked as it being gun violence, senseless gun violence, when it was a black life. You know, he didn't die, but he got shot. It's violence. You know, 1-year-old Devon, the little kid that just got shot a couple of months ago. You know, where's the uprate? Where's the marching? Where's the protesting for him?
No, I agree with that. When I think about the Black Lives Matter too, I feel like it's I feel like it gets taken out of context a little bit. I feel like it's like a statement that's used to I feel like when people hear it, it's like polarizing, and I think when people hear it, I kind of agree with the vision part of it. It makes people say, "Oh, the Black Lives, but what about the white lives? Any lives? Everything matters at that point, right? When you say one matters, everything got to matter." But I see it as I just see it as a symbol of hope. You know what I mean? I think it's not. I think people take it too literal sometimes when it's like I think it's symbolic. I don't think it means anything particular. Like I don't think when somebody say Black Lives Matter, I don't think it means like if you say it, that means you got to save every black life. You know, or if you see it somewhere, that don't mean that's supposed to save every black person in the world. I don't think the statement is supposed to be the savior for everything that's happening. And I think that's what people kind of take out of context. They see it and they think that's supposed to save everything. Just because somebody said it or they see it posted somewhere, that means that's supposed to save everything. And that's not the case. So I don't take it so literal and so serious as past that, you know? So I feel like laws change things. Legislation change things. Slogans don't change things. And I think that's why people get a little rubbed the wrong way by it when they do, because they see the slogan and they think that that's the thing people hope and change everything. I don't think that's the case. I just think it's a symbolic gesture. And I just leave it at that. And there's an organization that backs it. People get into that, what they represent. But I just feel like the statement itself, when you see it, whether it's a hashtag, whether it's on the street, whether it's on a wall, it's just symbolic. And it's a reminder to let you know that, yeah, Black lives do matter. Now, what any individual takes from that, when they see it, when they hear it, I might take it a different way than Jose might take it. I might take it a different way than a guy who lives in the suburbs might take it, because they don't want to hear that. But I just feel like behind all that, there's still laws that has to be made. Whether there is no Black Lives Matter sign, there still has to be people in Washington, people in these community council members who still have a job to do. Either way, you know, and and I feel like people get too caught up thinking Black Lives Matter is supposed to do that job, and it's not. So
and that's where,
yeah.
And that's where, you know, Kathleen Collins says, you know, it's important to complete the census and vote. You know, vote in the politicians that align to your views, and it's gonna bring the changes to the city that you would like
Yeah, so people, I think once people let that, I think people if people let that part of it go, thinking that that's black, I don't think Black Lives Matter is the answer. So I think other people think it's the answer. It's not. It's a symbolic gesture. It's a gesture.
It's a reminder. It's a reminder of what we went through in this country. It's a reminder that we are, our lives do matter. You know what I mean? It's just a reminder. And like you said,
we got a bigger fight. We got a bigger fight than a Black Lives Matter slogan. A bigger challenge. And I feel like people get too stuck on the Black Lives. I like the Black Lives Matter because to me it's like me when me and Rick went to the White House and we wore our fitted caps and I see it as like just a swag play on what we're trying to do. Like, all right, put that right there, put it everywhere. I want to see it everywhere. You know why? Because it does matter. And I don't think seeing it is supposed to be the answer, but I want to see it. I just want to see it. I just like seeing it because it's just a reminder.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I mean, I wholeheartedly agree with you, Tap. Like I said, that's the only thing that just rubs me wrong. Like they just flock to it. They exploit it in certain areas when it shouldn't be. When the message should just be Black Lives Matter. Bottom line, there shouldn't be no differing with who's live. We want to project more. You know what I mean? Because then that's what because that pen form. Because just think about this. I want to pose this question, right? We lost George, right? But in the interim of losing George, how many other Black lives did we lose, right? And then the parents of those Black children or Black men or whatever that was murdered, like how does that make them feel when their loved ones aren't exploited on the national spotlight? You understand what I'm saying? Like how does that make the ones in the background feel like, my husband should be just as have just as much TV recognition or anything as
what's even crazier than that? When you think about that, right? But think about before the cops' body cams, right? Think about before cell phones, right? Think about 50 years ago what was going on before we could like really see this stuff. You know what I'm saying? Think about that part of it. Like we in the future now, but think about like back in the days when and if you look at what happened to George Floyd, right? And you see that officer, we're gonna call him that for now, but on his neck, right? And the way he did it, and when you see it, it's kind of like, why is he doing that? And why he act like nothing's gonna happen? Because nothing was gonna happen, and he knows that. And he knows that because it probably didn't even register to him that we could see this stuff now, And that's probably what happened. He probably didn't, because they've been doing this for so long without no kind of visual impact that they don't, like, it's for a lot of them, it's not even registering that we can see this now. Because we've been yelling at them they've been on our people necks for centuries. So hearing that to them is like in one ear, out the other, because this is what they do. So it's not even that's the thing. It's not even registering that we can even see them, because they so used to doing this for centuries with like blind.
But you know what though? You know what, Tap? It do register, and that's where the pacifying comes in. The pacifying comes in with the signs, painting the murals on the floor, and
that's why we need to do it. That's why we need to do it. So it starts to like register a little bit. And I think the ones who really are on the other spectrum of that, it's going to embolden them more. But we need them to come out. I like it because it's bringing them out.
That's a fact.
Some of them that really feel like, Black lives don't matter, it makes them upset, and they might wake up that morning like, you know what? I'm going to show you how much your Black lives don't matter. The next Black person I pull over is going to be him today.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that is happening.
Jessica?
What?
You wanted to ask a question?
No. I was just going to say that the Black Lives Matter movement, I think, is a great conversation starter, because I think there's a lot of people who were ignorant to the situation and are not talking about it and thinking about it. But I wanted to ask, with everything that is happening because of George and all these other unfortunate people who are dying, or being killed rather, I'm sorry. what do you feel now? In the past week here, I've heard, I don't know, what is it, 30 people, Jose, got shot over the last weekend?
It's been a lot.
100 and something over the past X amount of months. What do you guys feel now about what can be done, and what should we do as individuals about because of the way the policing is being run now? How do we face this situation? What do we do?
Well, I think the defund the police thing was I think it was done wrong, right? I think that like I said, these kids are living in a culture of violence, like, right? So I think that whole defunded police thing was done wrong. They took the money from the police. They neglected them overtime, but they didn't put the money into the resources. You understand? So it's like it's an oxymoron. You took the money from the police, you take them off the street, which will increase the presence of guns and murder, which we're seeing today, what's happening right in front of our eyes, right? And then you don't put the money where it's supposed to be, which my constituents, the Cure Violence CMS movement, they're fighting very, very, very diligently to get the funding. So you defund the police, but you don't defund the police. So you defund the police and you send a bunch of young African males to slaughter. And it doesn't seem like they're trying to change that. So in my mind, I'm like, yo, why are they allowing this to happen? Like Jessica said, what could we do to stop this? Why is it so bad right now, right? So when you tell a group of opportunists that ain't gonna be no police on the street, man, that was the biggest mistake they could have ever done, and not literally breaking down what defund the police means. It don't mean that we taking a jump on boards. It means that we're going to take $1 billion from here and we're going to put $1 billion here. And this is going to help some of you. It's going to help, put communities in the center, community centers in the neighborhood. It's going to help groups like me and the Namel to be able to go in with the resources for these kids. Mm-hmm. But they didn't advertise none of that, and they just sending our kids to the slaughter. What they did was advertise you could wear a mask, you could carry a gun, you don't have to worry about the police, and that's what we're seeing happening right now. I feel like I'm agree. In the 80s.
Oh, the 80s is crazy. And I completely agree. You defund the police, and supposedly the police officers, have a slowdown. They're not, policing the way they're supposed to be, and we need more funding in the city to teach kids a different way, show them that there's a way out of the ghetto.
It's a weird time, because all this is happening during this pandemic. So it's like when you went, it's like you got. I know me. If I see a bunch of people running before this, if I see a bunch of people running around with masks on, I'm like, oh snap, it's about to go down. Now that's just people walking around like everyday life now. So it's like, so you got that already. You got so you got like a negative thing. A person want to do something bad to you. You like, oh, he like, shit, I gotta wear a mask anyway. I don't even put on my mask today because I gotta wear a mask anyway. So I don't look suspicious, right? So now he already thinking that way, and now, oh snap, the cops ain't gonna be on the street, Now you're dealing with the economic pressure, like, oh, now there ain't no jobs like that. So it just we just like in a weird mixture of just
perfect storm.
It's like the perfect storm, perfect storm for all this stuff, So it's like but I feel like I try to see the silver lining. I just feel like it's like when people go through things medically or whatever, it's like you gotta go through that thing, then you gotta recover. We got to go through this thing, and then we're going to have to recover and get stronger, and that's the process right now.
Yeah, Bruno, one of the attendees, Bruno, he says the solution is not to reduce the funding to the police. The solution is more funding for community programs, arts, sports, and recreation.
Yes,
well, I'm hoping some of all this money that's supposed to be coming from all these organizations go to that, and we gotta. I don't like to complain about stuff. I like to actually attack it. So like, I don't like to complain about. I like to address the people or the things that are actually moving in a direction that I feel like I wanna like steer in another way if it's not going the right way. So I'm hoping that we can like connect with some of these people, like, and like we get Wheelchairs Against Guns, Forward City United, Spinal, like they see what we got going on and support some of our stuff, and because each one got to teach one, and the world we're living in right now, there is no like real top heavy leadership. So it has to be like from one neighbor to the next, you know, one organization to the next, one politician to the next, and we all gotta like come together with like-minded ideas, because there's a lot of division and a lot of left and right, but there's still a middle. Like you got a right hand, left hand, but there's still a middle going on, and we gotta like kind of get centered, you know, and find a way to smile, because there's a lot of this storm we in right now. Shoot, one day at a time, man.
I'm also gonna go further and say that we need better education for the parents. You know, our kids learn it from somewhere, and they continue. Say again?
Look, I said you're right, Ho. Because a lot of these parents don't have conflict resolution strategies.
Yeah.
You know, this is where the violence comes from with their children.
But then you got the parents, the teachers now, right?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Man? So you're right, Ho. It does start from the home, man. 100%. It starts from the home. But you know, one thing that I can attest to that crack cocaine took mothers and fathers out the household. You understand?
Absolutely.
So when you take the mothers and fathers out the household, you're stuck with kids. You know, it's raising kids, and
the grandparents raising them too.
Yeah.
And that's like second generation. This is crazy.
Jessica?
I'm going to ask a little bit of a risky question, and you don't have to answer if you don't want to. But I support the Second Amendment. And
I do too.
Okay, what do you think we can do as far as, okay, yes, we teach that conflict resolution and all that other great stuff, but how do we teach gun education and gun safety too? Not just to stay away from it because it's dangerous.
That is
not
important.
taking an element of the forbidden fruit, which makes you go closer to it. You know, my brother has taught me guns. I've shot many guns safely, you know, with all the safety measures in precaution. So what do you guys take with that?
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that, because like I said, like back in the day, like Rama said, guns don't kill people, lunatics like we do, right? Yeah. My approach has never been to be like the gun is bad, because I know it's a choice, because I understand the choice I had, and I understood what made me want to have a gun, and I understood that my approach is like, I don't care if it's 100 guns in the room. I want to be clear-minded and secure enough to be like, I don't need that. I don't want to be like, the gun's got to be so far away from me that I can't control myself, that I got to pick up a gun and do some stupid shit. You know, I want to be like, everything.
That's the person that doesn't need a gun then.
Exactly.
So, that's the person that doesn't need a gun.
Yeah.
That's my personal opinion.
Exactly. So I want to, so when I go speak to young people, that's the approach I have. I kind of like, that's why I say think about the consequences. Like I don't want to take your choice away, but think about your choice. You know, like, so when you think about your choice and you hear these stories, it gives you more things to think about and more things to consider. And then it's like the choice is made with a little sense of education, a better self-esteem. So now you like, I gotta have a gun, or I don't want a gun. Either way, it ain't about the gun. It's about me and my choice. And I think that's important.
Very much so, man. And it's a tricky situation with guns in the inner city, because like Tap said, a lot of kids don't have the right conception of a gun. Well, just for example, when I go into the schools and I talk to the kids, I'm like, what do you need a gun for? Right? The first thing they say is, somebody kicking my house and try to kill my parents. I got to defend them. All right, I hear you. All right, but how often is that happening? What are you doing to make somebody want to kick in your apartment and murder your family? Like, what are your actions, right? So I ask them that, and I tell them that. And I'm a big believer on your Second Amendment right, because anything that we're supposed to have, I believe that we should have. You know, if you can be a conscious person with a gun, then so be it. If you got the right self-esteem and you have the right know how to handle a gun, then you can have 1,000 guns. I don't care. You know, I don't care. But my thing is, what concerns me is the rate and why they need the gun. You know, and like I said, I resort back to the culture, and I'm writing a book on this, that it's a culture of violence within our inner cities, right? For me, to seek help is detrimental to my health. And when I say that saying that if I'm having a problem in the street, and I need help, and I go get this help, either I'm going to get some friends and it's going to resolve imbalance, or I'm going to go get a gun. There's no in between. And I say that the culture dictates this because nobody wants to be a sucker. Nobody wants to have to ask somebody for help, and then in turn, when I ask you for that help, you take and put it out there like I'm weak, or I can't defend myself, or I'm a punk. You know, so the thought of having a gun is embedded in us from this culture, and we have to. I say this. I say this with so much conviction that we have to show them that there's another way to this violence, like to resolve your violence. There's another way. They don't know it. So as long as they don't know it, and America's built on guns, they're always going to find a need to get these guns. Well, whatever they got to do, whether they got to go to Virginia to get the gun, whether they got to pay a fee to go in the store to buy the gun for them. Their main thing is, I need this gun. This makes me a man where I'm from. This is my standing principle. This is Mr. Speaker. This is who's going to solve all my problems when it comes down to it. And I'm okay going to jail for the rest of my life. You know, so the guns could be there, but we have to change the mindset. Like, and the mindset, like Mike said, you could be in a room full of guns and you can see your enemy there. But me, myself, I know I can fight good. I want to fight. I don't want to go get the gun. You know, but these kids today, they don't know how to fight. There's no, you know, everything is just murder, murder, murder. So it's not the guns, it's not the Second Amendment right. Well, let me deter that, because yeah, I do believe that the laws should be stronger. I do believe that the laws will be stronger.
Some of the laws definitely could be stronger.
Yeah, because
like
I'll tell you this: when I was in the street, we used to just go to Virginia and pay crackheads with no charges to go buy us guns, and it was just that simple.
Iron pipeline.
Just that simple. It didn't take mathematics. It didn't take no hard equation to come up with this.
So that's a great conversation, and you know, we could continue until hours, but I want to get back to 4 Wheel City and play your video.
That's the one with Jada?
Yeah, Stupid with a Gun.
Well, you know what's so crazy? This last part of the conversation is actually a great segue into it, because the actually message of it is that the both sides of that, both sides of the Second Amendment, and then the thought process of why we actually need a gun and what we think. So that's the message of the song. It's called "Stupid with the Gun" because it's like Rick did the beat and he's on the chorus, and it's really it's because you say, I'm real stupid with the gun. I be running with the goons. You don't wonder where I'm from. Blah blah blah. And it's like saying like I'm stupid with, because it goes both ways. Like a street person might hear that initially and be like, because stupid sometimes sounds like good. Like you say, I'm stupid with it. In the street, it sounds like you're good at it. So when somebody hears, like a street person gonna hear, I'm real stupid with the gun and get caught up in that. So the first verse is like me being that person, because I lived that life too. So that's the first verse of that person going to hear it that way. So we wanted to put the message in the candy that way, and like do the first verse, like the person going to hear it that way, here go your verse. So you can feel like empowered with your gun in the first verse. Now the second verse is the person who's that same person, but now actually went through something with that gun and ended up in the wheelchair, and now has a testimony about being the guy in the first verse. And the second verse is that story of like what Kareem just said at the end, like what we think about guns. When Rick and I started 4 Wheel City, and my testimony of what I had to do with what happened to me and what happened to me. So it's like saying, and then we use the Joker storyline too from the movie, because if you watch that movie, he went through a lot. And then he got a gun and he painted his face like a clown. And then he became like the toughest guy, the wildest guy, shot people in public. And then he
got all the money.
Yeah. So then the whole idea of a clown being stupid with a gun kind of ties into the whole concept. So it kind of just tells a story of like, when you do senseless and stupid stuff with a gun, you're a clown. So it's like we're trying to stop that whole clown thought process with this song. And showing like both sides of it, that we really lived it and really got a story and a testimony. It's not just music; it's an actual message. And we got Jadakiss to hop on it because we wanted him to be a part of it. he's a dope, you know, he's one of the most dopest legendary lyricists to me who got on the mic that I've heard growing up, since I've been growing up. And he had this line that always stuck out to me where he said, and we gonna make it. It's so funny, the song's called We Gonna Make It, but he says the message and everything, trust me, even the bullet. And that always stuck out to me. So when the opportunity came to get him just to give us a shout out, whatever he could do, we jumped on it, and now we got Stupid with the Gun.
So here we go.
He actually sits on our board, huh?
Yeah.
He's our board member.
We're gonna link, man.
All right, here it goes. Stupid with a Gun. Everybody can see it, right?
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Yo, you know who it is, your boy Jada Kiss, man. Shout out to 4 Wheel City. This joint right here is called Stupid with the Gun. Bronx, New York was good. Let's get it.
You don't want it where I'm from. Blah, blah, blah. I'm real stupid with the guns. I be running with the goons.
Shout out to 4 Wheel City.
You don't want it where I'm from.
Bronx, New York.
Blah, blah, blah.
Came up and never changed up. Me and Gunna still on the same stuff. Same love, same trust. We get locked up, we in the same cuffs. No snitching, no telling. Ex-cons, ex-felons. If I roll the book, it'd be the best selling. The loud I smoke would be the best smelling. You can hear me as I roll by. You know the name that I go by. Most say I'm so fly. Still trying to go multi. At your neck like a bow tie, no lie. From the block where niggas get shot. Some survive, some again don't make it. Some again real, some again just fake it. It's a cold to the street and you better not break it. I'm from the South, Bronx, 169. So you know I got one sick mind on one sick grind. And I'm no sick nine, that's one sick line. So up for who don't like who. And whether they get in talking where he might do. Me and son do come through like the flu throwing up the 4 plus the 2 times 2.
I'm real stupid with the guns. I be running with the goons.
Shout out to 4 Wheel City.
You don't want it where I'm
Bronx,
from.
New York.
Blah, blah, blah. I'm real stupid with the guns. I be running with the goons.
Shout out to 4 Wheel City.
You don't want it where I'm from.
Bronx, New York.
Blah, blah, blah.
When I was 17 years old, I was a victim of senseless gun violence. My cousin was playing around with a handgun. The gun went off and struck me, my lower neck, and left me paralyzed from like the chest down. And I still have the fragments in me, so most time I think about it, I'm like, I'll put that bullet in that gun. 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 Me and my partner, Rick Fire, we got the idea to make 4 Wheel City because we wanted to give people a voice, tell the kids to stay in school and away from gun violence. But we think that guns make us tougher, badder, safer. A gun is like having 10, 20 people with you, like your backup. That's not the reality. I was rapping to myself.
I'm real stupid with the guns. I be running with the
Shout out to 4
goons.
Wheel City.
You don't want it where I'm from.
Bronx, New York.
Blah, blah, blah. I'm real stupid with the guns. I be running with the goons.
Shout out to 4 Wheel City.
You don't want it where I'm from.
Bronx, New York.
Blah, blah, blah.
Yo, you know who it is, your boy Jada Kiss, man. Shout out to 4 Wheel City. This joint right here is called Stupid with the Gun. Yo, shout out, you know who it is, your boy Jada Kiss, man. Shout out to 4 Wheel City, Bronx, New York. This joint right here is called Stupid with the Gun. Shout out to 4 Wheel City, Bronx, New York.
Yo, hold on, I want to say something, right? Nate and Tap has been on the scene with the music since forever. I've been in this chair 20-some years. When I met him, he was doing music, right? So this is to go to show you the mindset of our people. there's no reason why he's not a well-known artist right now. There's no reason why his music is not played on Hot 97, 105.1. There's no reason. The only reason why is because the message that he's saying is dangerous. And I say it's dangerous because they still want us to be out here killing ourselves, yo. And that's what I feel like.
That's a fact.
He's dangerous to the
That's how I
mainstream.
feel,
He's
too.
dangerous to propaganda. He's dangerous to, our people, because this music could bring us out the slum. And they don't never want us to come out the slum. So when you ask yourself about gun violence, you ask yourself about the perpetuation of it. That is the main question. What perpetuates this violence? Why is it like this? Like I said earlier, New York, Chicago, LA, I could go in any hood and I'm comfortable. You understand? Because I know the way of life that it is, and that way of life shouldn't exist because it's not conducive to anybody's well-being. And like I said, Tap, you dangerous, bro. So when you sit in the crib and you asking yourself why I'm not there, bro, just know that you are the dangerous one. That they fear you.
I know.
You understand what I'm saying?
I know. So funny you say that. Thanks for saying that, bro, because it's a fact. But I signed up for that years ago because when I first got in the chair, I was like, I felt like what you're saying right now, how you understand stuff. I felt like I understood the streets because I came from it, and I understood the way people view certain things, and I was like, I didn't want to keep following that. I didn't want to keep following that because now I understood, but I also had the experience of being in the streets. So I told myself, I was like, you know what? Since I know none of my brothers, I grow with, I know they ain't gonna take up this responsibility because a lot of them don't have the insight, and this didn't happen.
They ain't got the self-esteem, bro. We ain't got the self-esteem, bro.
Yeah, and they don't got the vision, and they also a lot of times they don't understand or don't want to step outside the box a little bit. So I knew that was my purpose. So I started making songs that I knew that this song right here, I knew nobody around me gonna like this song because they don't want to hear this. I knew years ago that nobody around me, when I started making songs like this and working with Rick, I knew that people gonna start looking at me strange because I'm starting to change my style and I'm starting to make stuff that makes sense and I'm putting my thoughts together and I'm making complete songs. And I knew that people gonna start being like, what is he talking about? And I was gonna lose some fans that I had in the streets. But I also knew that if I did it the right way, that somebody somewhere is gonna listen. So that's just the journey I've been on now because I feel like it doesn't get to like those places, but the places that do get to, they're gonna last for a lifetime. And when people actually really want to hear those messages, the foundation is gonna be there. And so it's like it's got to be a trailblazer.
How about, in the interest of time, we try to take a few, questions and comments from the people in attendance, of everything that you've heard so far, if you have any questions for Tap or Kareem or for me or for Jessica, let us know. You can raise your hand and maybe I can open up your mic.
The beat is stuck in my head now.
Yeah, that beat is dope. Rick killed that.
I love it.
That's how I felt when I heard it. Like, yo, this joint right here is dope.
It was good. Anyone? Any questions? So,
somebody say Peggy raised the hand. Peggy.
Kathleen asked a question. Says, are we working on creating positive message music and media? So we have positive music right here with Tap and 4 Wheel City. So we need more people like Tapwaterz out there.
I mean, they even starting to silence your Kendrick Lamar's and your, they even starting to silence them. I don't even hear them anymore. For me to get good J. Cole music, I gotta go find it. He got the one song on the radio right now, but when I was coming up, we had Poor Righteous Teacher, Karis One, X-Clan, and these was main artists that help you keep the balance of, well, I want to be self-conscious or I want to be a nigga. Excuse my language.
Yeah.
But it was the choice there. The choice is there. You could be a nigga and you can still
hear
yourself.
it.
Yeah, you can hear it.
You can actually hear it.
Yeah, bro. Yeah,
we have Peggy. I'm gonna unmute you and you can address us.
Hello?
Hello.
Can you hear?
Hello, Peggy.
Yeah, Peggy.
Yes. Yeah, I loved it. I loved the song. Great message.
Thank you.
And I think, like you said, you're not getting no airplay because of it's a positive message. Now, if it was negative, it'll be all over the radio station.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I know.
It ain't got pictures and holes.
I never chased that though. That was the key to it. I was like, I God blessed me with a gift, and I understood like I gotta use it this way, and I hope one day it changes, man. Because like Kareem said, growing up, I used to hear so much different music, and then you could hear like once the messages started giving that knowledge,
Yeah, the conscious music.
Yeah, you start seeing the music be promoted differently and certain things, and I think a lot of times we just following the same systems, and until we break our own and make our own system and support our own systems, then we're gonna keep getting that because the people who program, like they call it radio programming, the people they trying to program us.
Brainwash.
As long as we keep tuning into the same programming, they're gonna have us,
Yep. Thank you, Peggy.
You're welcome.
So we have another question. Kareem, your 3-part system targeting what is lacking in youth sounds incredible. How specifically do you work to perpetuate positive self-esteem for the kids you work with?
All right, everything is image with these kids, right? I mean, but they can read between the lines. They know the difference between BS and reality. So I have a simple system, I go in there as them. I dress like them. I talk like them. I keep the new sneakers. I give them something to look at me like, oh, hold on. If he could do, I go in there looking like they rappers. Sometimes I let them know that I'm living better than a lot of these rappers. And I let them know, and I just do visual contact and do my conversation and do the way I talk. They recognize what's real. And at the end of every session, we got them coming to us, open-handed, telling us that their personal dilemmas. They want to get out the street, but they can't. A lot of them are stuck in the street and they can't get out. You know what I mean? Because they don't know the know-how. But when they see us and they hear me, physically call a gang member a sucker because of his malicious intent behind joining the gang, it opens their eyes up. It gives them a new horizon. It lets them feel a sense of hope. Like, hold on, here goes somebody talking like me, dressing like me, and he look like me, and he got to be where I'm from. He probably know my father. He probably know my mother, my uncle. He knows somebody. So what he's saying has to have some validity, because I'm not coming in here not to say that if I look a certain way, which is the truth. If I go in there and I look destitute and I don't look as other, they ain't gonna listen to me. You know what I mean? So it's a method to my madness. Definitely that is definitely a method to my madness, and it's strategized and it's done strategically. Because I know that a message goes in one ear and out the other. And I even had to conform my program from going and talking to them for 1 hour to going and constructing a program where it's 3 days, 9 hours a day. Y'all got me. Instead of me just because I know how it is. They see me, some kids, some gangsters will be like, you know what, he did it that way, I ain't gonna do it that way, and I'm gonna continue to do what I do. I got those too, Yep. So that's that. Sorry.
Oh, that's great. Definitely.
Could really do is to see.
So it's another thing from Kathleen that says, "What about having an organized tweeting storm to distribute the music better?"
Good idea.
Anything positive getting shot in the water, man. We need a machine behind tap. We need Def Jam to really embrace his message. We need, because I see you with so many people, Snoops. I see you working, bro. I see you out there. And my thing is like, why this not catching? This is what it is right now.
But you see what I'm saying, Kareem? Everything you're saying is stuff I seen 20 years ago.
So you are our martyr. You are our martyr, brother. I commend you.
You feel me? You feel me? That's what I'm trying to tell you. I'm like, because I was like, why this is not happening? So I put myself on the line to do it. I said, I'm going to go do it. I ain't going to ask him to do it. I'm just going to go do it.
Yep. We have another question from Chris Noel.
No, Chris.
Yeah. With all of the attention on police violence right now, what can be done to stop communities of color from shooting each other up?
These kids get that stigma out of their head that they can't be police, that police is all bad. The only way to change is to infiltrate. You infiltrate by you become them. And whatever you think is wrong, you come in and you do it the reverse way. You don't step out, you don't stand on the outside and point fingers. And you know, you got a clean record, you in school, but you don't want to be a cop because you're scared of what your friends gonna think. Right? We gotta dead that. We need black police that come from these inner cities to be in these inner cities.
And we also gotta I like what you're doing with the conflict resolution, because I think it's really particular and specific to the actual things some of these young people are going through, or even old people, because the trauma it spans generations. And then it trickles down, because we learn, each one teach one. We learn from the parents, we learn from our uncles, we learn from the guys on the street, we learn from the music, the movies, the messages. So I think a lot of it comes down to how we respond to things, and if we could figure out, there's a lot of programs that's doing this, but it's so broad all around the world, all around the country, that one of the issues is that it's hard to catch every situation. If you could catch every person with a gun before they're about to shoot somebody and actually talk to them, before that happens, maybe we could stop 99.9% of them, right? And we could actually have a real conversation and see what's really going on, and how we could really address the situation differently in that moment, right? So how can we be in all these moments at the same time? That's the question. And what's the best way to do it? A lot of times it's music. Sometimes it's just getting to the schools. It's doing the work. Getting on the grind and actually get into the places where a lot of it is happening, and get into the source of why it's happening and the source of how to deal with it. And that's just person to person. When we talk about the system, that's things are in place to make us that way. That's the problem. Is things are in place to make us that way and make us violent towards each other. So if we don't deal with that, the violence always going to be there. We can't just wake up one day and say, don't be violent, when we wake up to it. So on one level, we got to deal with the things that make us violent, and then we got to deal with the reactions to things that are making us violent.
We have a question
the
from
perpetuation of it.
Yeah.
We have a question from Garrison Red, which actually great idea.
Hey, Garrison, let's go, boy.
Have you ever?
Slow motion, kid. Slow motion, man. I see you though. I see you, Playboy. I see you.
So, have you ever tried collaborating with a younger hip hop artist?
Yeah. That's a great idea too. I think about that all the time, and definitely I've always since I started doing music, I've always been about collaboration. I've always been about working with whoever's dope, whoever I could get to have a common communication with. One of my first mixtapes I ever put out, I was probably 20. And I had an artist I put on there just because his joint was so dope. I put his whole song on my mixtape, because he was a teenager, but I thought he was so dope. I just put his whole song on my mixtape. So I'm always looking to do that. But sometimes when we've been moving so fast, it's hard to make that actual connection and make something happen. But I like working with up and coming artists too. That when we go to a lot of the schools, sometimes the kids say they rap, and we bring them up and we let them showcase what they're doing to the rest of their classmates, so they can hear them and get them in that element. Because sometimes you just never know what a moment like that would do for a young person, seeing themselves in front of their peers and seeing a great response from their peers. That might spark something in them to be like, oh, this is what I want to do. I like that reaction. So my thing is exposure, using what we're doing to expose whatever we can. If you listen to most of our albums with Forward City or our videos, we always try to include other people who has in a wheelchair, maybe on a song, always taking pictures. We're trying to always show that it ain't just about us. It's about people that came before us and people that's coming after us and people that's in the same situation. So I would love to work with a lot of these young artists. Listen to them. So whatever's gonna happen, I hear a lot of them. I don't know what that is, but it's definitely happening. Always thinking about that since we started. We always looking to work with, especially like up and coming artists or younger artists that's doing their thing even maybe more than us.
In the interest of time, if there aren't any more questions, I want to thank Namel and Kareem for, this wonderful conversation, and if you want to find out more about their organizations, how can they reach out to you?
Yeah, everything 4 Wheel City, the number 4, WHEELCITY, 4 Wheel City. You type that in anywhere, we should pop up somewhere. Working on
music.
Yeah. Wheelchair Against Guns.
Just Google Wheelchairs Against Guns, man. Everything come up, all forms, the work we've done, who we work with, everything will come up. How to get in contact with us, everything. You want to book us?
Wear orange too. That's the color for anti-gun violence. All that.
Yeah, I feel kind of bad because the corona got me away from that. I didn't even wear no orange last in June.
But you know what it is. Yeah, that it kind of switched up the whole movement to how we've been moving around for the past years. But we're gonna get back to it. Shout out to all the other organizations doing their thing. Life Camp, all of them. I still see out there doing it. I appreciate them for that.
Yep.
Most definitely, all of them risking their lives, man, because they definitely out there risking their lives, yo.
Right.
But you could always reach out to, Jessica and I also, Jessica at BCID. Her email address is jdelarosa@bcid.org, or you can reach out to me at jhernandez@unitedspinal.org. Please check out our website is nycspinalcord.org, nycspinalcord.org, and if you're not a member, think about joining our membership. We get the magazine. You would stay up to date with all of our presentations. And again, thank you, everyone. Thanks, thanks, Kareem.
Thank you.
Anytime, Jose.
All right, man. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you. All right, peace. Stay positive, people. Love y'all.
No doubt.